Hello guys, this is Yadav Rakal. In this tutorial series, we will be implementing our neural network from scratch. And by scratch, I mean we'll be using the basic functions available in the Python programming language. But apart from the basic functions, we won't be using any sort of numerical libraries like NumPy or any sort of AI library like TensorFlow or PyTorch. So we'll write the mathematics of everything and we'll write the training algorithms by ourselves. So without further ado, let's get started. So to follow along this tutorial series, you will require a working knowledge of Python programming language. uh, Basics should be sufficient for this tutorial series, but even if you do not know some of the concept, we will be going through them during the implementation phase. And regarding the mathematics, you will require knowledge of linear algebra, especially the matrix arithmetics. And inside the matrix arithmetics, it also includes the vector arithmetics and some of the algebraic functions like the equation of line, plane, etc., and trigonometric like the sine, cosine, and tangent, and the exponential as well as the logarithmic functions. And regarding the calculus, knowledge regarding the derivatives of basic functions should be sufficient. There will be some part which will require a partial derivative, but we can get along with the partial derivative as long as you know the basic derivatives. So before moving into artificial neural network, let's discuss about the biological neural networks as they inspire the artificial neural network. In the right side you can see a basic picture of a neuron, and it consists of dendrites, a single axon, and a bunch of axon terminals. So dendrites will be in a large number, whereas axon terminal will be in fewer number. Dendrites represent the input to the neural network, and axon terminals they basically provide the output of the of the neuron, and the axon is a single link between the cell body. This circle is called cell body, the bigger circle, and the inner circle is the nucleus of the neuron. The axon uh, is a long structure, and it acts as a threshold or activation for the neuron, and this myelin sheath acts as an insulator, so that the electrical activities of other neuron won't affect the electrical activities of this neuron. So it is just a layer of fat that covers the axon. So let's go through the point quickly. So each neuron is a living cell with dendrite and single axon. Yeah, it communicates by electrical signal, and the electrical signal are produced by the change in ion concentration at the various region of the cell. The dendrites act as input, while axon terminal act as output. Myelin sheath is the insulator that prevents the leakage of signal, and the neuron become active according to the signal received from the dendrite, and the signal passes through the uh, mm, axon to the dendrites of other neurons, and the axon acts as the activation function, and the learning process involves the learning process involves like creation of a new structure or change in the chemical composition of the neuron itself. So that is the biological neuron. Let's get a brief introduction to the artificial neuron. So artificial neural network is inspired from biological neurons and their grouping. So the structures are inspired from the grouping of the structure in the brain, and most of them are implemented in software as a mathematical model, while some are also implemented in hardware, and they approximate the behavior of a real neuron. The learning occurs via adjustment of weight, and which is mostly done by a back propagation. So propagation is like an optimizing algorithm that works via the gradient descent. We'll get into that when we actually implement the neural networks. And our goal in the artificial neural network is to get an accurate output for the given input. So we supply a bunch of input, and there will be some sort of mathematical uh, calculation going on, and we'll get the output. So let's quickly go into this calculation. So this x1 x2 xn represent the input, w1 w2 wn represent the weight, which gives the priority to various input. For example, weight 1 may be 0, in that case x1 would be totally ignored, or it could be 1, in that case x1 would be totally passed, or like it could be -1, in that case the negative of x1 would be passed. And after that, like basically what we do is that we multiply with the weight and sum them together and pass them to a activation function, and the output of the activation function will be the output of the neuron. So let's get into the one of the first network structure that was inspired from the biological neuron. It is called perceptron. It was theorized during 1943 and implemented as hardware in 1958. So this picture in the right represents the perceptron implemented during 1958. So they have a unique algorithm that is called perceptron algorithm that trains the perceptron, and it is different from the back propagation algorithm that we usually use. So it has a very simple mathematical structure. So basically what we do is that we take two vectors, w1 w and x, where x would be a bunch of input, w will remain the same for different input, and we'll do the dot product. Basically we'll multiply the corresponding x or the corresponding input with the corresponding weight, sum them together, and do a step function to get the output. So here you can see that in the diagram, and it is just a linear function followed by step, and this equation represents a plane in 3 dimension, or like a line in 2 dimension, or like a hyperplane in hyper dimensions. So the step function acts as activation function, and it squeezes output to be between 0 and 1. So output may be like -1000 or like +1000, but as long as it is less than 0, it will be 0, and as long as it is greater than 0, it will be 1. So basically I mean it will be 0 if it is less than or equal to 0, and it will be 1 if the output is greater than 0. So what we do, this is implementation details, and people may implement it in different way. In our implementation we fix x1 x2 1 so that it acts as a bias term. And what is a bias? A bias would be like an offset. For example, in a line there is an intercept term that acts as a bias. So we'll get into it in detail when we actually implement the perceptron. The next type of neural network we will be implementing is the feed forward network. It is a layered structure, and it consists of many layers. There need to be at least 2 layer, input and output layer, and there can be any number of layer in between those input and output layer. So in feed forward network, uh, the the neuron, or let's call it a node, uh, is connected to all the nodes of the next layer. So for example, this is connected to all the nodes, and if you look in the backward direction, the neuron of next layer will also be like connected to all the neurons in the previous layer. So they are also called as like a dense network due to the large number of connections. So the connection are in the order of n squared. So they are like asymptotic complexity will be n square, meaning the n square is the number of neuron in a layer. So they consist of really a large number of neuron, and they are hence called as dense network. When used as last layer, they are used as last layer in artificial neural networks. So there would be a bunch of other kind of network that that will interact with the input, and they after they interact, the feed forward network would be the last one that would act upon the output of those networks. And feed forward network can have a multi input multi output structure. So previously we had a single output for a perceptron, but a feed forward network can have multiple input and multiple output as well. So it requires at least 2 layer that we also already discussed, and we can use various activation function for this network, and we will be training the network via back propagation algorithm, and this back propagation algorithm we will be learning when we implement the feed forward network. So let's see the similarities and difference between the feed forward network and perceptron. So a perceptron can be thought of as a special case of feed forward network. So if we take like a single input layer and a single output layer, and the output layer only consists of one neuron, then we can say that the network looks quite similar to the perceptron network. For example, we will have the same input, and the weights will be the same, and there will be a summation function. The activation function we can take is the step activation, and we will have the output same as the perceptron network. So despite the similarity, the training algorithm would be different. A neural feed forward network will be trained using back propagation, whereas perceptron will be trained using uh, uh, the custom perceptron algorithm. So in this speedway we will not be implementing the network, so I'll be uploading new videos for implementing perceptron in feed forward network. So what we'll be implementing in the perceptron is like classification of male and female from an image of size 20 by 20. So this was the original motivation of like the perceptron machine. They wanted to categorize the male and female by a camera that had like a sensor area of 20 by 20, and we'll try to mimic the actual implementation. And for the feed forward network we'll be implementing a written digit classification. So each image will consist of written digit 0 through 9, and we'll be classifying that image whether it consists like a digit 0 or 1 or 2 3 up to 9. So the data sets we will be using is are available in these links. We will be modifying the data set, and I'll upload any of the modification to the GitHub, so that it will be easier for you. So thank you for connecting.